Investigator Jack Moriarty, Team 1. Memo to Cliff Fenton from Jack Moriarty. Subject: re-interview Austin Cook in Dallas, Texas. The date: Thursday, March 9th, 1978. Mr. Cook was re-interviewed at 3:05 p.m. this date at his place of business by myself, and we utilized a rear room open to the public of this one-story restaurant. I explained to Mr. Cook that we were in the process of re-interviewing people with a view of developing wider information in terms of Tippit's associates, friends, and any name that we haven't run across before. He indicated he had told us all that he had known last time, but that he would try to reconstruct how we met him. In 1961, Officer Carroll Lewis was required to give up his part-time job, security officer at Austin's Barbecue, due to a transfer from the radio patrol to the detention services. It had something to do with his being overweight. In any event, he brought Tippit around and introduced him, and this is how J.D. secured his job. This was sometime early 1961. Paragraph. Captain John Squire, active currently with the Dallas PD, probably the commander of the radio patrol, is a man not previously mentioned by Mr. Cook and described as a longtime friend of Cook's and J.D.'s. It seems as though Captain Squire used to patrol this area, but he would only drink coffee sitting in the scout car and study the books instead of coming inside and spending more time with the other people. Mr. Cook has known Captain Squire since he was a private, and they still are apparently close friends. This is about the only name in terms of friends or associates that Mr. Cook can recall not having mentioned the first time. Paragraph. In response to my question if Mr. Cook had ever known Jack Ruby, he advised that he had known Bert Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N is the phonetic spelling, who was a friend of Ralph Paul's, since deceased. Mr. Paul had been Jack Ruby's partner. It seems as though 28 years ago, Mr. Cook started Austin's Barbecue at its present location. The name to begin with was the Bullpen, and his partner was Bert Bowman. About 8 years later, Bert Bowman wanted to open up his own place in Arlington, Texas, and he wanted to call it the Bullpen. Mr. Cook bought Mr. Bowman out, renamed the location on Illinois Avenue Austin's, and Mr. Bowman opened up the Bullpen in Arlington. Some 8 or 10 years later, Ralph Paul bought the bullpen from Bert Bowman. Bert Bowman then opened up the place known as Partners. Note, this is the Texan drawl pronunciation of the word partner. Mr. Cook explains it's spelled something like P-U-D-N-U-H'-S, Partners. In any event, this is the name of the place that Bert opened up also in Arlington, located on Division Street. Paragraph. So in a roundabout way, Austin Cook knew Jack Ruby in view of the fact that they had a mutual partner. Mr. Bert Bowman first was Austin Cook's partner, later was Ralph Paul's partner, who at one time was Jack Ruby's partner. They certainly operated in the same subculture, although Mr. Cook says he doesn't specifically remember meeting Jack Ruby, but he could have. It just could have slipped his mind. Paragraph. Mr. Cook and Bert Bowman originally got together some 32 years ago in 1946 here in Dallas, when an older man by the name of Libby, L-I-B-B-Y, and Mr. Cook joined together to buy a corner grocery store, at the time located at 9th and Ewing in Oak Cliff. They bought it from a lady by the name of Mrs. Bowman, who was Bert's mother. That business lasted a couple of years, and Bert had been the butcher for his mother and stayed on about 6 months until Libby and Cook were stabilized. Although Bert left after about 6 months' time, this was the beginning of a long-time friendship between Cook and Bowman. Paragraph. To Mr. Cook's best recollection, Bert and his stepfather and mother then opened up another place, something like a grocery store, where the old Sears and Roebuck's used to be located on Jefferson Street. Now it is a furniture store. He lost track of Bert for several years after that. Paragraph. Cook is not certain whether he ever met Ruby in person or if Ruby ever came into Austin's. Just doesn't have any recollection of this. Paragraph. Talking in terms of the John Birch Society. Not that it really has anything to do with this investigation, but the FBI brought it up years ago when they interviewed Cook. So he's bringing it up now. Indicates that there's a Dr. Rose Linney. Phonetic spelling is R-O-S-E-L-I-N-I-E, a dentist having offices on Southampton and having a home address at Crow Creek. He infers that Dr. Rose Linney was one of the key people in the John Birch Society. Also mentions the name Gene Gwynn, G-U-I-N-N, a man that he hired as a dishwasher some 3 years ago. This man has since been charged with and convicted of homicide when he was employed as a security guard in another place of business here in Dallas, at which time he shot and killed a juvenile. The trial went badly in view of the fact that they produced pictures of Mr. Gwynn in a Nazi uniform, and the, I believe, 16-year-old boy was black. Mr. Austin relates how Mr. Gwynn is currently serving something on the order of a 4-year sentence for this. The charge would have been against the juvenile something on the order of shoplifting. Continuing with this miscellaneous type information, Austin Cook asked me if I knew where Johnny Witherspoon lived in 1963. I told him that I did not. He indicated that I should find out. It might help in determining why Tippit was traveling at 10th and Patton in November of 1963. Paragraph. Mr. Cook also explained to me that he now owns one half of Austin's because his partner is his ex-wife, Maebert. That's Maebert, last name Cook, who lives at 2320 Mountain Lake Road. He indicated that she worked at Austin's during the 3-year period that J.D. Tippit was employed there, and possibly she could help me. He gave me directions on how to get to this address, which isn't far from Austin's, and I proceeded to make this my next stop. Paragraph. Note, you might as well make this the same tape, because I've in effect walked around the corner and interviewed this ex-wife, talked about the same subject matter. The time of day is 4:30 in the afternoon. It's still Thursday, the 9th of March. I'm now at 2320 Mountain Lake Road. The phone number here is 339-8938. Her business number at Austin's is 337-2242. Ms. Maebert, I'll spell the middle name, L like in Lincoln, E-O-L-L-A, last name Cook without the E, was at home with her 18-year-old niece, at which time I interviewed this lady in the dining room of this one-story home, and she advised me that she had known J.D. Tippit during the time that he was a security guard, although she had been preoccupied with their other restaurant known as the Three Brothers. The Three Brothers is located on Harry Hines, directly across the street from Parkland Hospital. While this location gave them an opportunity to hear all the sirens related to the assassination, they really didn't have any idea what was going on. She advised that she had been the manager of the Three Brothers restaurant that was co-owned by Austin Cook, and eventually they were married. They also opened up another place known as Big Daddy's. Big Daddy's was located at Keast and 67th. That lasted about 3 years before they sold it. They sold the three brothers sometime early in 1964, concentrating on Austin's barbecue. Paragraph. Maebert Cook says she does not have any acquaintances who claim to have known Ruby or Oswald. Tippit would be the only one that she was familiar with. She knew that Tippit was friendly with some of the help. Mentions Calvin Lawrence and Ernest Joe Johnson. One of the two of these black men would have been present while Tippit was working there. She believes it's Calvin Lawrence, who now is working for the Dallas Power and Light Company. He still stops in the place every once in a while. A tour of duty at Austin's barbecue consisted of 2 waitresses, 2 cooks, and 2 or 3 dishwashers. Johnny Thompson is the only waitress name she can recall. She says the dishwashers came and went in such rapid order that Tippit probably wouldn't have gotten to know them anyway. Paragraph. She indicated that she did meet Marie Tippit shortly after the death of J.D. when she came to Austin's in black clothes and talked to Austin Cook. She was either introduced to her or Austin pointed her out to her. In any event, they talked for some time. Paragraph. Ms. Cook advises that she and Austin are also partners in the Swiss Retreat, located at 2509 Berne, B-E-R-N-E Street in Dallas, a private club for members only. From the outside, it appears to be one of the nicer clubs around town. Paragraph.